I've been working with Openness. It's a long time right now, and it's always a pleasure to say yes when I receive an invitation to share what I've been learning so far in the field of innovation, informal sector, and specifically when Africa is concerned. Today, I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts about AI in Africa. So my presentation will focus on three main aspects. The first aspect is mostly the rhetorics. So how we talk about AI in Africa. In the second point, uh, I will show how the discourse or the rhetoric around AI is disconnected from our reality. And at the end, because I'm not just a pessimist, I'm very optimistic about AI, specifically in Africa, but it depends how we embrace it, how we work with it, how we decide to deal and develop solution for our context. So that is what I will talk about at the end of the presentation. So first of all, let us agree on what I will call here AI, because AI now is an umbrella term where you find a lot of things. Even makerspaces right now are part of AI because AI is developing a lot of places, all technology related to drone, satellites, and even LLMs are part of AI. So when I will say AI during my presentation, I'm talking about AI as artificial intelligence and associated technologies. So that is the first thing I wanted to agree with you. So in order to build a common language. So we all agree that AI in Africa has a transformative power. So, and I did a research on the state of AI in Africa during 2 years at SEMIA, Centre d'Expertise International de Montréal and Intelligence Artificielle, because we wanted to understand what is going on in Africa in terms of AI application and how from the not the founder perspective, but from the Canadian perspective and the Quebecese specifically, we can better support initiative going on in Africa. And I wrote a series of three reports, one on agriculture, second one in climate action, then in healthcare. And it appeared that AI, as we read in the report, in many reports, in different websites, is widely used in Africa. There's a lot of startup uh, research initiative going on in the continent right now. And in these three different reports, I try to do an exhaustive list of uh, all these initiatives. And you will see that in agriculture, of course, precision agriculture is the widely used approach in AI. People are saying that they are using drones, but I don't know how far is really efficient in our continent. In healthcare, specifically, as I'm working myself in this field, it's widely used so for diagnostics, for telemedicine, for decision making, and so on. So that is the reality. AI is bringing a lot of opportunities for us working in the continent. And specifically because we are working on the cloud, so the geographical barriers now are inexistent. So we are able to do what we want to do based on the resources and all the protocol we can find on internet when they are available. So that is the beauty of the things. And from what we can read from the narrative, it seems like the continents itself, yeah, the policy level, have been very attentive to this technology. And that is why you will see that there's a lot of great policies developed. African Union first, they have a global strategies on how to conduct or to implement AI in Africa. But of course, and again, it's only a discourse, it's only a paper. And few months ago, I saw this chart showing the 16 countries in Africa, so 16 countries over 54 having their national AI strategies. You know, innovation and policy, we need to, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think policy and innovation always work together. They need to work together in order to have impact. Because if you are innovating from your startup and you don't have the political support, I'm not sure that you can have the impact you are looking for working alone. And that is why I was very happy to see all this and all this excitement about having AI policies and so on. And now, from my discussion in the fieldwork with some people, some experts, some Africans experts who wrote this national AI strategy in different countries, they have some complaints. Some complaints. Yes, the national AI policy is there, but at some time, some experts are complaining that they have not really been part of the writing. So they have been invited by someone contracted to write the policy for them. That is one thing. The second thing is when I was in Semia, one country, I will shut up the name, they reached out to us asking how they can concretely implement the strategy they have in their book or as a writer, as a written material in concrete action. So how Semia can work with them, closely with them in order to implement this action. So for me, it was so weird because when you are writing a policy for your country or strategy, I think you know very well what you have with you, how you can implement what is going to be the next step in terms of action and so on. But in all social media, in all website, and also it was just claimed like the first country in Africa to have a national AI policies is this kind of advertisement. So that is what we are facing. We can see on internet right now. And aside this policy, even initiative and startups going on on the continent, when you read on the website or on internet, you can see very great things, but when you reach out directly in the field to see what they are doing concretely, is only a discourse, nothing, narrative. So it was very difficult for me to find concrete application built from Africa by local actors and so on to develop locally. So sometimes it was collaboration with countries from the north, where local actors don't have access, for example, to data. They don't have access to all the code used to develop this initiative. And for me, it's really well. But it's not new in the world of technology. And that is why the second point is about the discourse around it and how communication can frame the way we understand technology. So the first thing is Everett Rogers developed a theory on diffusionism. So when we are using the term adoption is a term related to diffusionism, where people or the director, founders, or promoter of solution, they are just interested by the first adopter of the innovation. So how idea and new idea are adopted by population or in other areas. And if I am pretty sure that you will agree with me, in many reports with international organizations, you will always see this classification, early adopters. So the five big countries in AI in Africa are Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya, Tanzania sometimes, when we are talking about sub-Saharan Africa, but when you englobe all the Africa, you can also include, you always include Egypt and Algeria. Of course, South Africa is part of this main countries leading AI in Africa. And the bad thing is the founders are following this discourse, this diffusionist discourse, the narrative around the first adopter. So, and the consequence, the first one is funding will go always through these main countries, these big five countries, because they have, according to the narrative, all the condition needed to develop or to catalyze innovation there. And that is why you can see some disparities between Francophone Africa, for example, and Anglophone Africa. Even if language is a barrier to this, but the narrative also around AI is a big problem. Aside the fact that people or the logics pushing AI toward Africa are just interested by communication, they are not taking care or they are not considering our local challenge. In Africa, we are still dealing with first industrial revolution challenge. How can we move to the fourth industrial revolution, since we still have pro issue with electricity and so on, internet and so on? How can we move forward with this? It's true, but the difference is in terms of usage of AI, in terms of skills, how you use the information you can find on internet and so on. We are different, and we have we have a different perception of tools that we have with us. So the economical challenge, I was talking about fundings. The main funders of AI initiative in our continent are foreigner. So you will see the Gate Foundation is funding, IDSC is funding, Google, they have, and the big tech also, they have some company in Kenya and so on. They have representation there, they are funding. And this is very good because it's boosting local innovation, and local talents also can be trained through this initiative. But when you are not owning your funding, your funds, sorry, you cannot impose your agenda. The agenda belongs to the one who have money. And unfortunately, our states, our government are not really funding AI as international funders are doing. So sometimes, at this point, local talents will just, it's a strategy. So they will just work with the founders according to their program and so on. And that is why, and that is where specifically we see some decontextualization or disconnection between the discourse, the narrative around AI in Africa and the local needs. Regional disparities is something very real also in terms of English and French, and is something very specific because a lot of francophone they don't want to read things in English. When they see any codes, any paper in English, they are discouraged. And the same, I know some people from the Anglophone area, when they see French paper or something like that, they push it aside. Specifically, in my country, I'm from Cameroon, so I forgot, I am from Cameroon and you have the Anglophone part of Cameroon and the Francophone part of Cameroon. And we can also see this dynamics, this difference between our language inside the same country. So I will not go through other issues like digital divide, AI divide, the dependence, the foreigner solution, because this kind of challenge has been very well documented and we are still facing them here since so many years. But the reality is that I have been, sometimes when I meet innovators in my country, in Africa, and in other countries also, they are using open resources, they are using open code. And after that, they just claim that they have created or they are innovating. And it's a bad way to do because they are not even giving the authorship to this, the author, the first, the owner of the code and so on. A lot of them are using GitHub. I don't know if some people know GitHub, but GitHub is an open source platform. It's a platform where people, innovators, can share codes openly and so on. And if you are interested by any code, you can go there and download and replicate it from your country or from your place. So, in terms of technocoloniality, the simple definition I can give here is technocoloniality is logic of coloniality led by technology. And some characteristics, so the four main characteristics I have identified are technology transfer from A to B. So it's 15 years now, 15 years exactly, that I'm observing how technology is evolving. And it's always the same thing. If you take Internet, Internet a été développé d'un endroit pour un autre. C'était jamais en Afrique. Nous avons abordé l'open science à un moment. L'open science a été téléporté d'un endroit A pour un endroit B. Et même si nous appliquons tout ce qui est lié, les bonnes pratiques de open science, de bonnes pratiques d'utilisation d'Internet, il est rare de voir une initiative quitter de l'Afrique et être adoptée ici, dans le Nord. Depuis 15 ans, 20 ans que j'observe quand même la scène de la technologie, je rêve de ce moment-là où je verrai une technologie développée de l'Afrique et utilisée au Canada ou aux États-Unis. C'est rare. C'est toujours dans un sens. Dans un sens. À ce moment-là, on se pose des questions. Parce que pour avoir essayé, même quand vous développez une technologie localement, À cause du complexe, la colonialité des savoirs, nous, quelquefois Africains, méprisons nos propres solutions développées localement. Pour que je sois sûr, il faut que ça vienne de la France, il faut que ça vienne de la Belgique, de la Suisse, pour que je sois sûr que c'est une solution qui marche. Donc, les causes de la technocolonialité ne sont pas forcément dues au système, ce n'est pas la colonisation. Quelquefois, il y a des causes internes aussi qui font que nous sommes omnibulés par le discours de la modernité, le discours autour des savoirs dominants, et nous voulons les reproduire chez nous. Au-delà de ça, il y a les pratiques néo-capitalistes. Quand je vois mon salaire, par exemple, au Cameroun, et je compare ce qu'une multinationale peut me donner, même si je reconnais qu'on m'exploite, le digital labor et autres, même si je travaille pour $1, et je sais que $1 à la fin de la journée, j'imagine ce que ça me fait dans le contexte camerounais, je vais seulement m'engager malgré que je le sais. Et vous voyez donc cette logique de délocalisation de plusieurs entreprises vers l'Afrique, où justement on reconnaît qu'il y a les Big Five et autres, mais qui vont utiliser la main-d'œuvre à moindre coût. Ce sont des pratiques qu'on ne voit pas passer, sont pratiques invisibles, mais elles existent. Et tout ça est chapeauté par le discours, la communication, un très beau discours qui va masquer les réalités, toujours. À ce niveau, moi, it's an invite to rethink innovation from Africa, because we have tools to rethink, we have tools to rebuild or to build from our context what is useful for us, not for them. And AI is a great tool, it's a great opportunity for us. We need to size it, everyone, our context. What we are facing now is not new. So it has been 10 years that I'm using the same picture, the world system theory from one side. With internet, with capitalism, with trade and so on, it's the same picture. Where you have the center of the world in blue, you have the semi-center or the semi-periphery in violet, mauve, and in red is the rest of the world. And always, if you observe like me, you will see that all these technology are always coming from the blue to the red. As I said before, my dream is to see something moving, not pupil, but innovation moving from the red part, the periphery, to the blue part of the world. That is our challenge right now. And we need a critical mass of people, thinkers, developers, able to work in this mindset. Change the world if you are able. And to achieve this, the word, the good word or the best word to use is not adoption, it's appropriation. In communication, we do a very good difference between adoption and appropriation. Even when you are speaking, please stop speaking about adoption, but appropriation is better. Because with appropriation, you have this possibility to transform, to adapt, and even to remake or to remix the solution you have. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. And we can have at appropriation at the individual level as well as the collective level. It's true that at the collective level is small difficult because it brings systemic constraint and so on, but we can start very easily. We can start easily from our own practice and so on. So, and I'm defining the decolonized appropriation as the abilities for us, Africa, to reject solutions where they are not fitting with our context and being able to hack, excuse me, but I will use the word hack them, to hack the solution. Sometimes it's called reverse engineering. Sometimes it's called uh, cannibalization, métissage in France, and so on. But now with AI, with internet, we have the opportunity to reinvent the existing solution. And this will bring what some have called frugal innovation, or innovation based on our context. The main thing I want to focus here is on open license. Open license is, or open licensing is a great chance for us. We have a lot of material available on internet now for free on the Creative Commons license. And I will encourage, I'm, I'm advocating even people to use them and to adopt this bunch of license for the work they are doing. So, because it helps and it can strengthen, it will empower a lot of people across the world, not only in Africa. So when you are opening a code on internet or PDF and so on without any barrier, it means that the authors has allowed you to use it. And we have to do the same. We have to adopt the same practice. And that is only how we can consider traditional knowledge, for example, in the AI solution we are working on. Openness, open. Traditional knowledge, you know them, but the founders, for example, don't necessarily know what it is and what it's used for. But we, Africans, should be able to integrate them in what they are doing. And if you are not open to other knowledge, other epistemology, you cannot do it. Just to close, I will close here, I will stop here after this. I still believe in makerspaces because makerspaces are for me a concrete utopia. We are lacking infrastructure in Africa. We are lacking data center. Even our country doesn't have a data institution to manage their own data. So when we are doing AI, we always do it with a lot of biases because the data set training our algorithm that we are developed are not from our context. I was working with a colleague from Nigeria. She is at McGill University, and she was working on breast cancer. And she tried to develop the same thing in Nigeria, Cameroon, and three other countries in Africa. But she realized that the data or the algorithm was not so accurate, was not really accurate for people or women in Africa, because the data used to train the algorithm had been the data from Canada and Europe. simultaneously. And this was, I don't know why she didn't see that it will be a problem for our research. But when we realized it was too late, and this was the result of our research, that we cannot replicate or reuse the same algorithm in Africa. We need to adapt. And the beauty of makerspaces is, in the makerspaces, you can develop hardware almost for free to collect data, because AI is fed with data. If you don't have data, you cannot really do AI. Aside the discourse, when we are coming in the real world, you cannot do AI without your own data. So the first issue is to get the data from our context. And makerspaces can help us with open device that we can easily fix if they are broken and so on. I pledge for the connection between, or the evolution of makerspaces, so with AI. So it seems like when AI arrives, we put makerspaces aside, but makerspaces can be a catalyzer of AI innovation in Africa. This is my final word. Thank you.
Merci pour votre aimable attention. On va ouvrir la session pour les questions. Soyez libre de poser vos questions en anglais ou en français. Le professeur va répondre en n'importe quelle langue. So, who wants to go first? Professor Chidi?
I wanted to reflect with you in terms of your classifications of the challenges. When you talk about regional disparities, you reduced it only to linguistics, which I thought I was looking for, substantive disparities. As you said, the linguistic disparities will always be with us. That is part of the default of colonization, also part of our strength as a continent. When you look at the Anglophone, you take a look at South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, then you flip them around to countries like Liberia, Gambia, and so on. So you see developed country, least developed country disparity is a significant reality in Africa. If you go to the Francophone, you look at Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, and then you move down and see Chad, Mali, Guinea, Burundi, and Burkina. So that, for me, the way we frame disparity would be really inclusive of this, which is the reality in Africa. And then I know that maybe I saw some overlap, or where I would really rejig this classification of challenges. For example, social challenges, you put shortage of skills. I was going to push that to economic challenges and so on. So I know this is not quite crystallized, but there are so deep issues of disparity in Africa in terms of its geographical exposure, in terms of concentration of wealth, and in terms of access to resources and education. If you look at South Africa, if you look at Kenya, if you look at Nigeria, whether it's artificial projection without contextual reality, they're already taking up AI and run with it. And at the bottom, there are significant countries that represent a significant percentage of whether AI will make a difference in Africa. Depends on how it makes contact with those people that are consistently excluded globally, regionally, and nationally.
I totally agree with you, and so for me, it's not a question; it's mostly a constructive comments. a way to think forward about how we can include this point. And as I said before, the report has been worked on my position at SEMIA. So within an organization, and for some, it was a command and order to do this research also. And but I totally agree with you that the regional disparity is more complex than what is presented here.
My name is Uche Onora. I drove all the way from Waterloo for this lecture. I'm very excited to be here and to hear about open air. So one of the things that has been playing around in my mind as we talk about the challenges with AI and as you presented them here, and ways in which Africa can overcome those challenges. One of the things I've been thinking about is to draw parallels and an analogy to a prior revolution, somewhat similar, but maybe not as widely as encompassing, but also has this comprehensive impact on Africa, which was the telecom revolution, right? Even though there's been this premise that Africa can leapfrog and overcome certain infrastructural challenges, industrialization challenges to get into the information age, we now see that AI is even taking it to another level in terms of when you're talking about the information, we're now talking about intelligence. So with the fundamental challenges that Africa has, even with the concept of leapfrogging, how do we operationally now, not from a theoretical or from a policy or regulatory standpoint, how do we operationally get Africa to participate, not just, as you said, like, dependence on foreign solutions and consuming AI models and platforms, but also to build foundationally a very robust mechanism for participation in this intelligence economy, given that we haven't actually quite developed the industrial capacity that a lot of the foundational infrastructure, compute, and all of those things affecting AI.
I am convinced by a concrete utopia. That is why I finished my presentation with makerspaces.
Okay.
Because we cannot go or move at the same level, at the same rates, like our government and so on. And I think when you have an open space, you can call it Fab Lab. Some people are calling it Fab Lab, but I prefer makerspace. Like, you can do anything that you want to do. You can test, you can try new solution there without any problem. And the advantage we have now is the dematerialization of our boundaries, frontier, of our boundaries. So the world now is like one, so we can access any kind of code and so on from where we are. I have experienced this in Africa, in Cameroon specifically, from the Mwala, which is a biohacker space I founded in Cameroon in 2016. And with all the information I've been able to get from internet, we succeed to develop our own enzymes locally. I don't know if some people are in the field of biology, but in molecular biology, enzymes are very expensive. And in Africa, if you are working in this field, you have to order enzymes from US, Europe, where, and when they reach in Africa, they are 10 times the price. South Africa, they have a company called Indaba, but they are not dealing, they are not developing there. They are also storing, ordering from Europe and US and storing there and distribute. But we succeed to develop this solution, high-level solution, high-level enzymes from Cameroon with local technicians. So for me, this is something that can help our countries. And in my thesis, I think in the conclusion, I'm advocating for our government to develop makerspaces everywhere in Africa so that the local talents can go there and test what they want to do. So that is at my level what I can do, what I think is doable.
As an African, I find that a bit, I question that in my head because I think that when we innovate, and to your point about innovating for our material reality, when we look to our material reality, what we're innovating would look significantly different from what we do when we're thinking about, oh, now we want to import. And I feel like we often want to jump and be, oh, we've been taking things from the north, let's send things to the north. And I just wonder if you've thought about perhaps we should just concentrate on our material reality and what we need. Because I think that, again, in the way that technology has worked, when the North is innovating, they're not innovating and thinking we're going to import to Africa. They innovate this thing that works, and then to your point about creating a narrative around, oh, then all of the world then needs this because it works for us, and then they start to move that. So I was thinking perhaps if I was wondering if perhaps you have thought about perhaps we should think about what we need, and then perhaps also create our own narrative about, well, we need this, then all of the world that now needs it too. But my second question, I think you addressed part of it, again, is to your openness and your concrete utopia. And I think utopia is really the thing to say, because I wonder if you've thought about the fact that all of these things depend on money. And I know that I'm being very basic in saying that these things depend on money. And so if our engineers and technicians and scientists are going to invest time and effort to invent something, even though it is useful to the society, they do need to, I don't know, get some return. And I hate to sound materialistic about this, but they do need to get some return on the time and the energy that they are investing in. And I don't know if you've I know you said part of it in how the government sets that up, but it is the idea that there needs to be a return on investing resources. And perhaps this even goes beyond just technology, but generally in the way that we treat investing in intellectual resource in Africa.
When these trends of Fab Labs started from the MIT, the idea was just you have to equip your space with 3D printers and so on, 3D printers, laser, and so on. Then people can come and work for passion because they are passionate about technology and so on. But this one is for rich country because at that time, even the 3D printer was very expensive. But when we started promoting, we used makerspaces because we thought that the first thing is being able to get people and discuss about our reality, what we need. As you said, it's very important what you need in your context. From the discussion, you can start thinking about which local material you can use to solve this problem. And that is why uh, I need to confess that it was not my first approach. My first approach, I was already a PhD student here. I bought a lot of equipment that I bring in Cameroon, but no one used them. A 3D printer and so on, but no one used it. But when I started discussing with people in the community, so it was not useful, as you said. But we thought that we can try to develop material equipment that biologists need. And the first thing we developed was a microscope. We saw some great code and design of a microscope, the open flexure microscope that we 3D printed. And I don't know from which country or from, I assume you are from Nigeria, but I don't know, but in Cameroon, microscope are not so famous. You cannot find them everywhere. Until my master's degree in Cameroon in biochemistry, I have never used microscope, for example. And in rural hospital, is very needed. So we developed one, and we add a solar panel solar.
Solar panel.
Yes, to prevent energy issue and so on. So for me, it's very useful. But the barrier we face is a systemic barrier. A systemic barrier because you need accreditation, and the standard around this kind of tools are mostly developed with international standard to meet all the ISO you need and so on. It's very difficult at some point. And even the local government relies to international standards. It's the big issue. And when you go further, you can see that all these standards are designed by big company, pharmaceutical company. So they cannot allow that a low resources, a low cost innovation, as they call it, change the market. So at the individual level, so that is why I'm still claiming for the individual level. I don't know when we have some decision maker will be very strong in terms of discussing the ownership and the local innovation with their colleague at the international level, but at the individual level, that is what we can do.
Exporting the technology for me seems not to be a problem anymore because the problem for me seems to be the contextualization of the technology. Like when people bring or take the technology from the north, they seems not to contextualize it into the problem that they are facing. As she said, when the north build up the technology, they don't take into account that the technology is going to be transported in somewhere, any other place. They take into account only their problem. And if anyone wants to use that technology, is on the person to contextualize it depending on its own problem. So this will take me to the question of the different strategies that are being made in Africa by the government. Most of the government build those strategies in their office without going to the community. I'm saying this because there are a lot of AI initiatives in Africa, but almost all those initiatives, there is no link between those initiatives and the government or institutions. So that pushed me to ask the question of what strategy is being put into if it's not to solve the community problem. So that's my first question. And the second one is, do you think that we can really go into open licensing if people need money? Because all the AI initiatives that exist tend to go for proprietary their innovations, and because they actually need money. So if you ask them to have their code, put it on GitHub, collect their data, put it on Kaggle or Hugging Face, will that give them money? And if not, what are they gaining? Because I think if we want to ask them to open their property, then we should tell them what they are gaining by doing that. Thank you.
But open license doesn't mean gratis. So you need to agree on this. Open license doesn't mean gratis. And when you are putting your work in, when you are licensing it openly, it's mostly because you want to see your work improve by the strength of the community. For example, on GitHub, when you put your code there, a lot of people can fork it, they can create another branch and so on, but you will keep your authorships. And your model or your solution will improve. You can see all this evolving. And for Africa, for Africans, I advocate for open licensing because we need to match a critical mass of local innovation available. Talented, skilled talent like you are very rare, you know. And if you decide to keep all your knowledge just because you are looking for sometimes your solution will be bought by Google and so on, we will not have local innovation coming from you, a lot of innovation. So we need to build a critical mass. That's the first thing. And even the innovation you are developing, en français on dit, tu t'es posé sur les épaules d'un géant pour construire cela. Donc, c'est la même logique It's a mindset that we need to adopt. Money will come. I'm, I'm very optimistic about this. But in order to have a critical mass of our local solution, we need openness. Because the consequence is when you are doing research, for example, on Africa, in ecology of, when you are considering the ecology of knowledge on the internet, many of these research will come from the North, not from Africa. Because even for thesis and so on, people are thinking like that. I need to keep my thesis. I cannot put it on an institutional repository. And the consequence is when people are talking about your context, they are talking with northern eyes. So if I need an alternative solution, I have to find on internet, I have to find your research or your solution available. So that is my point. And in terms of the comparison or the question about national AI strategy, yes, that is what I mentioned. Many of these strategy has been developed from the office. You have been involved in the AI strategy for Cameroon, and you know what happened. But if you consider only the discourse or the narrative around it, it seems like all is perfect there. So that is the issue. And I did a work, I compare all these national AI strategy from the Canada strategy to Singapore, the first one, and so on. And if you do a comparison with African AI strategy, you will see almost the same thing, the same category, the same. There's no contextualization, no effort of contextualization.
I am Zhong Hao, visiting PhD student from China. Yeah, I prepare a China-Africa AI cooperation question. We see both the China-Africa AI cooperation in area like infrastructure, digital scale project, and considering the clear policy alignment to the recent Chinese and Africa AI government statements, especially on enhancing the voice of developing countries. What are your thoughts on the potential and the primary trend for future China and Africa cooperation in the global AI governance framework? Thanks.
With my lab in Cameroon, when we decide to develop enzymes locally, we try to find to buy the first material we need, primers, armors, and so on, from Europe, from UK and France. It was impossible, and the price was so high, so we cannot afford it from Europe. But we succeed because we bought our material from China. And I can say that in terms of operationalization, in terms of in terms of efficiency, innovator based in Africa can easily get the material they need from China right now. So that is my thought from my experience.
And Alex, very quickly, the last question, please. Oh, that's you.
I was there to talk about China, but you did get.
Oh, okay, amazing. Thank you very much for the very brilliant questions. I'll now invite Professor De Beer for the closing remarks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I appreciate the intelligence and wisdom you've shared with us. I don't have anything to say other than thank you to everyone who's come and made this lecture another success. I did want to say a special welcome to the youths that we have in the room. Glad to see that here, and we'll welcome you back in a few years when you're in law school in the same building. Thank you very much, everyone.